Hello friends, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink with another STAMPtember collaboration exclusive with Simon Says Stamp. Today's collab is with Colorado Craft Company, and it's this adorable Life Happens stamp set that is illustrated by Anita Duram. Did I pronounce that right? If I didn't, apologies. They actually have a bunch of sets illustrated by her. They started commissioning them earlier this year, possibly into last year. I'm not even sure. They're really cute. They're really cute. So I was really excited when I got this set. I was like, yay! Because again, I need like 3 extra jobs to, buy all the stamp sets that appeal to me. So anywho, I stamped a couple of the images from the set onto some Fabriano Artistico cold press watercolor paper. Because I've got it, might as well use it. I still think like it's similar to Arches. I don't feel like I notice a big difference between the two. But like I had said in a previous video, whenever it was, price-wise, it's actually similar. Anyway, I don't notice a huge difference between this and Arches cold press. But I've got it, I'm using it. Why not? So I'd stamped the images with Nocturne ink, like VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. I did not heat emboss the images like I normally do. Just cause. I don't know. Sometimes I want to, sometimes I didn't. This time I also decided to do like a full panel of coloring because it's a smaller panel. Just a couple images, nothing too, very finicky or detailed, anything like that. So I had taped the panel down to my hardboard with painter's tape, and I had made sure when I put the tape on to kind of keep it as even as possible. And then I used my Mijello Mission Gold watercolors, and I painted like the ground area and the background first, just to get that there, did my little bit of underpainting. And then I painted the little critters. And I kept everything, again, kept it simple. Like the images themselves are kind of simple. There's not a whole lot of... I don't want to say difficulty, just, they're little cute little mice. So, it was simple, which is definitely what I needed because I had a rough couple days. But anyway, I painted everything with those Mijello Mission Gold, and I was using my heat tool to speed up like the drying process because again, nothing is heat embossed. So you want to make sure the colors aren't bleeding out all over the place because that is why I do the heat embossing. It eliminates that little bit of a worry. But if you use a heat tool, if you're speeding things up like I always do. And then as a final thing, after everything was dry, I took my POLYCHROMOS pencil. Any colored pencils are going to work. I've got a whole pack of POLYCHROMOS here that are just sitting gathering dust. And use that just to add a bit of like shading and definition. You could totally do this with watercolors. You can use whatever works. I really like the look of the color pencils though. I just don't use my color pencils much anymore for full-on color pencil coloring. They hurt my hands. It's always been an issue. I have borderline carpal tunnel. And just as I get older, I notice usually with color pencils and the pressure you need to use and holding that sort of a point. Ugh. But for things like this, for little bits of just added definition, added texture, that sort of a thing, it's totally doable. And I do love how it's a little easier than trying to add the definition with watercolor. So I'd added that bit of color pencil, and then I added some splatter. This is just my, my little white gouache mixture in my palette that is fairly watered down. And this will dry back a lot. It won't be white. You'll see it more, at the end. But I splattered it, and then I was like, I need to add more shading around the base of the images. Should have done this before the splatter. So, But I just went in carefully with my color pencil and just made sure to kind of avoid the actual splatter so I don't smear it everywhere. So just adding just that little bit of extra shading, it gives it that little extra something and kind of finishes things off, grounds them a little bit more, And I don't know what it is. I genuinely really like on watercolor paper how color pencils, it picks up that texture of the watercolor paper and just gives it that little something. And normally way back in the day, I would not have liked that, but now it's ooh, I love it. So anyway, I set aside that panel now, let the splatter dry. and I grabbed a scrap of brown cardstock from my stash, and I am stamping one of the sentiments from this little set onto that cardstock with clear embossing ink. I used my anti-static powder tool, stamped it with clear embossing ink, coated it with detail white embossing powder, and then melting that with my heat tool. Once it was melted, I pulled out one of my circle wafer dies, and I'm going to tape that into place with a bit of tape so that it doesn't move when I run it through my die cut machine. So I'll get that die cut, and then I pulled out, of course, Neenah Desert Storm cardstock. I get asked a lot about this washi tape on my trimmer. I need to pull that off and just use like full-on Sharpie markers, but the washi tape marks the 6 1/4 inch mark, and then the line on the washi tape marks the 6 1/2 inch mark, so I can make my mini slimline cards, because I cut it to 6 1/2 inches by 6 1/4 inches, and then I score it at 3 1/4. So this ends up being a 3 1/4 by 6 1/4 inch slimline card, or mini slimline card. So I did that, put it back into my MISTI, and put those same 2 little characters, lined them up on the inside of the card here. And I'm going to ink these up with Simon's Cobblestone ink. I've mentioned this many times. This is one of my favorite inks to use on Neenah Desert Storm. They're just meant to be. It's either this ink or the khaki ink. Cobblestone has a little bit more of like a gray undertone to it, and khaki is a little bit more brown. So it just depends on my mood which one I grab. But it's just the perfect kind of tone on tone, but slightly deeper, if that makes any sense at all. So I stamped the images, and then I stamped another sentiment. So that finishes off the inside. And now everything's dry, and you can see like that splatter is not intense like it was. Dried back, it was great. So I'm carefully peeling the tape off, like folding it off, basically like peeling it against itself, like pulling it against itself, because I want to preserve this perfect edge. If I manage to wreck it, I would just trim it down. And normally I don't worry about it too much because I just, I'm die cutting my backgrounds or trimming them down, whatever. But I wanted to preserve it because it gives it that nice crisp look. When I take that extra time and I paint a background like that, and then you have that perfect straight, painted painter's tape border, it's just, again, chef's kiss. So I used Simon's Big Mama foam tape to pop this onto my little card base here, and I use the foam tape on the sentiment as well, just to give it that little bit of dimension that I love. And then once I get that adhered into place, I of course want to add just a little bit of embellishment, nothing too crazy. I've got a little bit of splatter, but I've got these little Trinity Stamps coffee bean heart sprinkles that they don't even leave my desk. I've used these in a million videos. Like, they just go with everything, and they were perfect again for this card. So I just stuck 3 on there. And I'm just going to adhere those into place with little dabs of craft tacky glue. And then I'll pair this card with a grocery bag mini slimline envelope. And that finishes off this little ensemble. And as always, I will have a link below to my video, or to my blog post with all of the supplies used, etc. I will also link to the Colorado Craft Company brand in my blog post. I've done that with all the STAMPtember posts. But you can check out, because this set will probably sell out quite quickly. But there's plenty of others under that line that are just adorable. So I'll have links to all that. Check out the description box below the video if you're interested. Thank you all so much for watching and subscribing, thumbs upping, commenting, all of it. I very much appreciate you all. And I'll see you guys soon in the next video. Bye!